All right. Well, hello, Joy Seekers. Stephanie here. And today in my Spotlight on Joy series, I have Abbey Acevedo. She is a narrator, writer, YouTuber, and Reiki master, which I just found out about, which is super exciting. She is truly shining her joy. We used to also be coworkers as well. We've both gone through a very transformational journey over the past few years. And so we reconnected recently. And I wanted to feature her in my Spotlight on Joy series. So welcome, Abbey.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate being here. And that was such a lovely recap. And as I'm sure you can attest to, it's always weird. You know these things about yourself, but when you hear it recited back, you're like, oh, that's me? Oh, wait, I do those things? Yeah.
Your confidence a little bit. You're like, yeah, it's me.
Exactly. So there's like a little message in there for everyone to just take note, you're doing great things, even if you don't feel that way. So take note and give yourself some credit.
Yeah, your website, you really express yourself very well, and like you're like, this is me, people, take it or leave it, and I love that. I love that vibe. That's really what I've been going for as well on my site. So it's like what you're doing resonates with me. I feel like we're going on a similar path. So it's just great to kind of like be here and pick your brain and talk to you more about what you're doing.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's an important part. Like my whole website is me figuring out who I am, because that's a big question on this journey. Like, who am I? And not only that, we do a bunch of things, but who am I? What do I like to do? So my journey is just like self-exploration and trying to dive into those questions and then having fun in the process. And that's how you learn. So thank you.
It can always be fun. There's always going to be some moments of frustration and doubt and
for sure
negativity, but you have to find the fun along the way.
Absolutely.
What are we living for if we're not enjoying it? Some of the times, at least.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I'm going to ask you some questions here, but we also may just go off on a few tangents. But just kind of always point back to, I think, topics of self-care, self-love, joy, and also getting to hear you talk more about what you're doing.
Sure.
Awesome.
Sure.
So I'll start with my favorite question, because it's all about joy. But tell me a little bit about what joy means to you and how you've rediscovered it over the past few years.
Joy to me is basically our birthright. And that's kind of a belief system that I've had to really work on through this journey over the last few years. But with everything in the world, it's so easy to, like you said, look at the negative, feel the stress. Everything is go, 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 do, don't stop and rest. So those would be the opposite for me of joy, which also explains the definition of joy, which is whatever lights you up. It's going to be different for every single person because we're all unique human beings just having this human experience. So for me, joy is also synonymous to experience. So basically things that make us human, that lights up our senses, that get us, where time disappears and, we're in this kind of flow state and we just are able to lose ourselves, which is ironically the way you find yourself in it. So that's kind of what joy means to me. And it's a process, but joy can be anything from just something as simple as laughing to, meditating, to doing things like cooking, to just a state of being too. And it's the journey that I'm on is really how to cultivate more of staying in that state of joy, that emotional state.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love asking this question because there is no right or wrong answer.
For sure.
It's all about how you perceive joy, and we all have different life experiences. So that's amazing. And leaning into kind of what you're talking about is like being yourself, and this be yourself message, it's part of your name too. You emphasize on your website, which I think is like, hey, run with it. It's the same with me. Shine your joy. I'm like, it's my middle name. Like,
I love it.
Things, and it makes your message you, and it emphasizes more and more, hey, I'm being me, you can be you, and
100%
better world.
100%.
So it's a prevalent message throughout your site. Tell me more about how you've learned to be yourself, and maybe like an example of something. You don't have to list this person's name, and we like to be as private as possible, but if there's somebody that you've impacted to like kind of give them that empowerment to be themselves too. So
Yeah, sure.
it's a hard question.
I love that we have such a similarity. I mean, I think it's an important message. Like you said, sometimes there are signs that are right in front of your face and you don't even know it. So that whole concept of, you were talking about the word B as in my name, B-E as in my name is spelled A-B-B-E-Y. And I actually just had that realization I've been alive almost 37 years. And I just had that realization about a year ago on my journey as I'm learning to be me, or 2 years ago around this time frame, within this general time frame. But I think that once you start becoming aware and you're taking time to learn yourself and you're more conscious and intentional about that, you'll start noticing all of these signs and synchronicities, and even words or people like that's right in front of your face the whole time. I was born with this name, but I kind of just came upon this realization. So that's part of the journey. But I think it's beautiful the way we have that in common with your middle name being Joy, and how important our name is to who we are. It's one way we identify with who we are. And as I'm on this journey, that prompted me to look more into my name. And and Abbey is like a church or spiritual development center or someplace people go to learn more about themselves and kind of the spiritual awakening journey. So I find no irony and coincidence, in the power of a name. And that just shows how powerful words are too, when we think of manifestation and how we speak to ourselves, about ourselves, to other people. So I think I love that point, just to bring up the power of words. And when you're paying attention, all the meanings,
names that we've been given, and like kind of what our purpose is with those names and what we can do with that power behind our name.
For sure. So I would encourage everyone, go research your name, go find some fun things about your name, and things will start clicking for you. But to bring it back to your original question on naming one person who I've impacted, I think what's really important for me is I've noticed, I obviously blast my message out. I have no problem, showing up on social media or on camera or on all of the platforms. But something more intimate is my family. And, while I'm speaking about these messages and preaching and like, yay, this is amazing. I want you to be you. I want you to be you. Not everyone feels that way, right? People will be ready when they're on their own timeline. So you have to, I've been walking this fine line of, just keeping that power to myself, living authentically in my truth, and hoping that will emanate enough to ignite someone else on their own. And I bring that point up because my family, we have different belief systems when it comes to religion or just spirituality or kind of the way things work. And that's completely okay. It's actually been great for conversation and understanding, our upbringing as children growing up and siblings and just how, our whole lives have worked. But I bring that up because I've noticed they're not typically ones that I'm, shouting from the rooftops day to day, but I've noticed in them witnessing the growth that I've had over the last 3 years, like pursuing my dreams, publishing a book, stepping out of my comfort zone, being okay, saying, I don't want this anymore, letting my whole life crumble to the ground, as they witness, but still rising up and coming out on the other side. People take note of that stuff. And I'll say that I truly believe that one of my older sisters, as a result, has been activated on her own spiritual journey now. So just by me going through this process, naturally being myself and my family unit, I can now see the impact it's actually having on my siblings with, one of them going through a spiritual awakening, or, maybe my mom who's not so, inclined to admit that she's following along, but, I'll sneak into her room and see there are crystals, or she's now reading Louise Hay's, You Can Heal Yourself, or, they're paying attention and they're kind of coming in their own time. So I think the message is really not, like I said, try to impact people so much as the message is to, like we said, to like really step into your own power, focus on your self journey, and that will naturally and organically start to help other people do the same.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. I was just thinking of something else. I just had a window pop up. Sorry.
That's okay. So many windows and doors and
show up. Adobe Flash Player likes to show up, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" Not now, Adobe. But yeah, it's true. It's like you don't like, even though we are like what we're doing, we are like preaching our truth or talking about it, in a way. The way that it resonates with people more is that they just see your example of you just being empowered, you just growing, seeing all that stuff. It hits people in their own way at their own special time. And I think that's more magical than having people resonate right away when you say something like, yes, it's almost like just to see that transformation go on and happen with them.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've had a few family members and even a high school friend saying, you know what, it's amazing how bold you're being. I can't believe how bold you're being. And it's really cool to see. And, like, and it shows that too, because I'm the same age as you. Like, it's never too late to do these things. Like, don't be like, oh my God, I should have done this in my 20s, and why didn't I have this epiphany then? And it's like, no, just do it. Just go and do it.
Absolutely. It's never too late. Time is like unreal. I think we're all feeling a little bit of like what relativity actually means. Where like 1 year can feel like 1 minute, or, it's like time is not even a real concept for me. So there's never a wrong time. There's never a wrong time, or it's never too late to start. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, I'm at a point now where I'm not in a 9 to 5, and so I don't know what day it is sometimes.
Exactly.
Like,
exactly.
Okay. All right.
It's worked out somehow.
I know, somehow, but like, I think it's funny because I think our world is so concerned with time, but I think we're not supposed to be that concerned with time. I think
for sure.
I think symbolically the life is short thing is totally true. And like, just to be aware of how you're using your time, I think more so than like what time it is, or like, oh my God, like, it's almost like more so like, how are you using your time for your greater good too?
For sure. Nailed it. Nailed it.
I love that show, by the way. If you've seen it on Netflix, the cake competition show. It's called Nailed It. Oh my God, it's hysterical.
Now I want cake. Thanks a lot.
Amateur people making cakes, and it's like, here, make this amazing cake of a castle, and it's like usually turns out kind of like not so great, and it's so funny because everyone's laughing their way through it.
That sounds like how I would make a cake, so I feel like I would like that show.
But that's kind of symbolic of life, is like, we're gonna just keep creating,
just gonna say that
it may flop a little bit, or it may not be as great, but like, you're still doing it. It's the process, the whole process of going through it. And we're not supposed to be perfect. Our failures are what help us realize what we're supposed to be doing too.
Yeah, it's so funny on this search for truth. I'm finding that for me, I never realized how many cliches are true for me. Like I thought they were always just cliches, but I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm finding more and more that I resonate with cliches, like to your point, where failure, is just success, right? No can be not now. Like, the more you are able to break things down, you can have breakthroughs, right? Like, failure is so important. Or, cliches around, you have to love yourself, first. And I'm just realizing, the truths are always there. That goes back to my point. It's like, I've been on this journey of discovering, and I'm just rediscovering all the things I already knew. And I think that's so important because we all have the knowledge and the wisdom. It's just like you said, it's this timing. It's all divine timing. When you're ready and your soul is ready and your consciousness is ready, everything will make sense to you as it should be as you go on this journey. But it's always there. That's like a key message. All the answers are already, they exist.
Yeah, absolutely. I keep thinking of I love Whitney Houston, and the greatest love of all, and the big message is learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. And it really is.
You're like, I knew that, but I had to hate myself to then love myself. But now I know that love is greatest.
No, yeah. I figured out what she was talking about, what all the hype was, but it's true. It's absolutely true. And I think people have been saying it for years, but it just hits us at the right time. Sometimes we at first we're like, nah, that's a cliche. That's not me. And then we're like, oh, now I know.
Exactly. Yeah. Or you could learn the lesson like 100 times in your life. And then it's just that one time when you have that conscious awareness around it, that it just sticks. You've already been through it 100 times and it didn't mean anything, but just takes that one time, that one spark, that one conscious awareness moment in divine timing where you're like, okay, I get it.
You're like, oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know.
And that's like part of being patient with yourself too, right? And this idea again of not forcing the journey, and things will, appear when they're ready to appear. Like, one of my favorite quotes is, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And that's in the shape of people, which is why I love that you're back. You said we work together. I don't even think we've ever talked at our company in a physical space when we work together, but now we're brought together in a space like this. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, the resources will find you. You don't have to force things. You don't have to know the way. You will meet that person. You will stumble upon that book. You will hear something on the radio that just was like, oh, that was the answer I was looking for. So part of this is just like the art of allowing and being receptive and just open to kind of see what comes to you too. And that's been like part of the fun for me.
Yeah. And it's a personal journey, but you can still have helpers along the way. And I love that, that we build our tribe. We have those helpers that, I'm talking with someone else on Thursday about podcast marketing. I connected with him on Instagram, and he's like, yeah, let's talk some more, and like that's like his expertise. But I'd love to. I mean, what we're doing is basically kind of like a podcast. I haven't officially launched anything like podcast-y, but it's on YouTube, so it's like, but I haven't called it a podcast. I don't know why I'm making up words, but
I was like, what are we air quoting?
I know, a podcasty. I was like saying it's not really, it's podcast, but I haven't like announced this as my official podcast, because I know you have one as well that's on Spotify, but
I do.
But it just, you never know who's going to be on the way. And all I did, I think I liked something on LinkedIn that you shared, and we connected with each other, and like, and here we are. So.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, my podcast too, that was something that just spurred out of this idea to try something, see if you fail. But also because of this larger message we talked about, where, as I was going through my journey, luckily there is so much more information around self-development and spirituality and just like stepping into who you are on social media and different platforms, which is awesome. But during my own journey, I was finding like everything was so, borderline toxic positivity, and to like fake it till you make it, or, law of attraction, you're going to like manifest $1 million, and how to like jump 3 times, turn, do all these spells. And I'm like, this is not where I'm at in my process. Like, I'm actually like in fetal position crying, and I'm losing friends, and I'm losing hair and like different bodily reactions. I have ringing in my ears. Like, I'm having weird phenomena that's happening. And like, I had no idea how to explain these things. And therefore, my podcast, The Shitty Side of Spirituality, was born, because it's like, it's not all rainbows and butterflies. Like, when you go on a journey to learn yourself, it's not only the bliss and the joy that we've talked about, and the euphoria and that feeling of connection and just that oneness, but it's also the tower moments, the breaking down, the getting rid of the limiting the beliefs, having to look yourself in the mirror and look at all the ugly, bad parts about you that you have to take accountability for. You have to look at your life and be like, okay, if I'm really not happy here, I'm responsible. I have to change it. So like, there's a lot of accountability and just a lot of things that don't really get talked about on the spiritual journey, as far as kind of not negative, but like, for lack of a better word, like more of those like soul moments where you're like, well, what is actually happening to me? What's going on? Do I need some actual real professional help? So those moments where I'm here to remind you, maybe you do. So, I'm not a medical expert, but also maybe consider that these are just symptoms of your journey, and that's on par. And it's important to talk about that side too.
And I think the more you have those tower moments, the more you appreciate the joy, because you come out of that and you find joy. And so we have to keep having those moments where we go from like, oh my God, I can't make it today.
Yes.
To, you know what? I got through that day, and now I'm joyful, and I found my joy, and I worked my way through it. And maybe it was like really shitty in the beginning. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, and I was having a sad day, but then I, listened to a song, or like I connected with someone, and like, I was reminded of joy again.
For sure.
We have to, unfortunately, because life is not perfect, we have to repeatedly go through those moments and be reminded of joy constantly.
I think that's so important too. That's one of the topics I hope to talk about in the future. And I just had a conversation with a friend where we have a tendency to, it's kind of like a spiritual self-development trap, in my opinion, where we think because we learned a lesson, right? We fell down, we picked ourselves up. We're like, great, I learned about self-forgiveness, and we think, great, we did it. We've now like checked that off the list, and that's never going to happen on my spiritual development journey again. We've got rid of that. But it's like, it's a continual process. It's not just one time that happens. Maybe you learned self-forgiveness as far as, healing on one aspect when it came to love, but then that issue is going to come back around as self-forgiveness maybe in a year. And you're like, wait, I'm dealing with self-forgiveness again, but maybe it's tied to like a friend instead of a partner, like there's always different layers of these themes that will continually come up, but that doesn't mean we're regressing. That actually means we're progressing, because we've kind of healed one aspect of that overall theme, but there's layers, it's spiraled. So that theme will continually come up, because that is the evolution, and that's the healing process. They don't go away, but it's easy to like beat yourself up, like, oh my God, I'm here again. Oh my God, why? I thought I fixed this. I thought I did this, but that's one of the things I hope to talk about too, which is just, it's a trap, and it's like, it's so easy to get caught up in it and kind of that negative self-talk, but it's perspective. And like I said, giving yourself credit for where you've been, because if you look at it as a spiral, it's just ongoing. It's never going to stop.
Yeah. Patience is definitely my repeat lesson. Not patience with other people, but patience with myself and how my journey is going. That's like probably that's the one that keeps repeating. I was like, why am I still dealing with this?
Yes, exactly. I find myself in the same thing. I still do comparison. I still like, why? I thought I learned this, but then I have to take a step back and I was like, okay, it's still here. It's here to teach me like a different aspect of that same thing. Like, what is this here to teach me? So it's just a matter of, being willing to shift your perspective and ask any issue, like, what is this here to teach me? What is it this time? And get ready to roll with it. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of rolling with it and rolling on the floor crying for sure.
Comparison thing oh my gosh, that is the biggest weight on us all, because we got social media right in front of us, seeing everybody else doing what looks like is, oh, well, they got it, they figured it out. We don't know what their demons that they're fighting, and like
exactly,
it's like we just see all this, and we portray that often too. We're like, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, and just because you think someone else has it doesn't mean they have it all. And so just focus on what you're doing, like get laser focus on that. And don't worry about what other people are doing and what they think of you. That's the most important. And that is another ongoing life lesson that has to keep being reemphasized.
100%. 100%.
You were briefly talking about crystals with your mom and kind of rediscovering crystals. And I know that you wrote a wonderful book about crystals.
Thank you.
I'll be putting all these links together once.
Oh, thank you.
Because I always like to spread the word. Do you find specific crystals helpful in your own spiritual life? And also, like, if you want to talk a little bit more about like that emotional support, which is a really important topic for a children's book for sure these days. But I just wanted to kind of like know like what inspired it and like how crystals have helped you. And tell me more.
Sure. Crystals, I'm definitely obsessed with crystals, not just because they're just so beautiful, but I truly believe in the power of energy and earth and science, and not just woo-woo, but, the backed principles that can explain kind of some of the healing potential around these things. But the way my book came to be was because I have like 8 nieces and nephews. I have a lot of nieces and nephews, and the younger nieces and nephews who are around like 2 to 6, anytime they come to my house, they're always just like touching them. They're obsessed with them. They're drawn to them. They're playing with them. They're asking me questions. And I was like, you know what? They're so drawn to it naturally. And I think there's something beautiful with that childlike energy, and they're drawn to it. And, their soul recognizes kind of the importance of these things. So I thought it would be fun to kind of explain it to them in a book, and to show, to have kind of a legacy for them where they felt special, to have their name in the acknowledgements, and know that something was created for them, so that they can remember that they're the true gems and that their dreams can come true, and whatever they want to do, they can do it. So being just an example for that. But it really just teaches kids just like the basics about, I think there's maybe 6 crystals in there. So if they are, dealing with anger, for example, as an emotion, maybe using an amethyst under their pillow for, calming down, relaxation, a little bit of connection to themselves, putting that under their pillow, or, if they want to be inspired and have a burst of energy and get creative and play around, maybe, holding a carnelian crystal, and there's a few others. So it's just different ways to talk about their emotions, let them know it's okay to show all your emotions, feel all your emotions. And that if you're wanting to work with those and kind of transmute it into different, energies, these are the crystals you can work with. So that's how the book came about. And then as far as different emotional healing techniques, outside of just children, personally, that's been really important on my own journey, just like trying to learn all of the different modalities there are to self-heal and to learn more about myself. So I went on a journey over like a year-long journey of trying all the things. Like I have done some weird things in my life, but I have done everything from like all the things. Like if you've seen it on YouTube or some spiritual documentary, I have done the thing.
Hey, you gotta try it to figure out if you like it. Yeah.
Exactly. But those tools have been really important for me to manage my own stress, to manage my own anxiety, to manage those times where it is a little bit more dark. Like I do practice what I preach. Like even coming into this, if I'm nervous, like one of my favorite techniques is tapping, or emotional freedom technique, EFT. Super powerful, where you're just tapping on certain meridians that are in your body, and it's regulating your energy flow. And as you're doing that, you're saying certain affirmations to kind of help you walk through that emotion and kind of re-regulate. I've done a lot of quantum healing hypnosis sessions where I have a really good friend who's a practitioner And the way we met was serendipitous, right? I didn't even know what quantum healing hypnosis was, but, serendipitously, this person found me, we connected, and she's one of my best friends, 2 years later.
Wow.
And that's a session where you talk to your subconscious or your higher self. It's a practice that was created by Dolores Cannon, and she has several books and transcripts of all the sessions she's done. But it's this idea that there's, this Akashic record or this universal record of everything that could ever happen. So you are able to ask a question, whether that's what's my life purpose, or, I've had this reoccurring theme or dream in my life. What does it mean? And you can get answers to your own life questions, talking to your own subconscious or higher self. And also you're able to tap into different lifetimes if you believe in past lives. So it's tied to past life regression. So, and then just normal tools that I use for emotional healing on my own daily, like whether that's a yoga practice or meditation or dancing has been one that I've really been exploring, like really exploring lately. Somatic dancing, ecstatic dancing, sensual dancing. I just took a class with a friend of mine called Andrea Maximo. She's a sensual embodiment coach. And she has online classes. So really just playing and exploring and trying all the things to see, what I can take into my daily practice, what works and what doesn't. And some of them won't work for everyone. So that's why it's important to try things out and be open to those experiences. And then you'll just, pocket the ones that you like and that work for you.
Yeah, I mean, dancing is a huge energy boost and just a huge mood booster. And for me, singing is that. Like it's calming, but it also kind of it raises my vibration for the day, and I'm energized. So, but everybody has their own thing.
Yeah, people get kind of like turned off sometimes when they think about dancing, like, oh, I can't dance, right? The limiting beliefs, I can't dance, or I don't know how to move, or, I feel silly. But I think it's important to note, like, the dancing part is not what's important. It's like learning what your body feels like and how it expresses emotion. And, sometimes even dancing in a class, you could lay down on the entire floor. Like being still is still a movement, it still allows you to tap into what it is you're feeling internally. So like, it's not the external stuff that matters when you're doing these movements. It's really, again, just like tapping in, being in the moment, seeing, maybe you're feeling anger and now you're like, okay, every time I lie in this position, I'm feeling like this thing. Now you can associate that to anger. So when you're in a real life situation after dancing, maybe at work, you're like, oh my goodness, I'm feeling that thing that I felt in my dance practice. Oh, now I know that's anger. So I know how to act appropriately. So it's really just another technique for self-exploration without any need to judge yourself or actually do like choreograph, try to look cool. It's really just like playing around and being like, what is, yeah. It's not like a TikTok. Yeah. Like, I look freaking weird. I do some weird stuff. And I'm just like, what, like, oh, what is this feeling? I don't know. But
when you really move and groove into the rhythm and the vibe of music, or even if you don't, even if you just have a song in your head, like you feel so amazing. Like, I think you feel like, it's like your attraction. I feel like it's like the law of attractions. Like you feel attractive, like when you're doing it, being you, know, like,
for sure.
Regardless if anyone's watching, you're just like, I feel really amazing right now. And that's what I noticed recently when I was I think I had something on the TV and I was just like, just along, and I'm like, do this.
Yeah. So, if I'm like really stressed or anxious, I'll just get up and I'll just like shake it. It's not even dancing. I'll just shake everything and just like shake it, like, get it all out, and then take a few deep breaths, and it's like, okay, I'm good.
Dogs do that, and I always say to my dog when she does it, shake it off, Reese, because I feel like that's what they're doing. I'm like, we can do that too.
And it's self-exploration, right? Maybe you'll tap into something that nobody's even created yet, right? There's no one way of healing. That's why it's called self-healing, right? So there are things I do that maybe doesn't have a name, but they mean something to me. They make me feel a certain way. And that's part of my own practice. So it doesn't have to be like, this extravagant thing, and it doesn't have to take all day or, whatever. It could just be quick, simple little things, it just, again, matters your perspective and your ability to be present and tap in and try to see what you're feeling and what you're thinking, and kind of that's just the process of getting to know yourself, is being with yourself.
Being yourself. And it's really being with yourself. Do what feels right to you. Like, there's nobody that needs to tell you what feels right to you. Only you can do that.
Yep. So exactly.
That's one example of how to really embrace that, for sure. That's amazing.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been fun. It's been a fun journey. It has been an interesting journey. It's been weird and joyful and sad and confusing, but it's been all the things, the whole spectrum.
Yeah,
But
all the things.
again, cliche, I wouldn't have it any other way. I would not.
Yeah. But again, like probably a few years ago before all this happened, like you probably wouldn't have thought, like you wouldn't have really fully conceptualized all that has happened and all the transformations that have happened and all the things you tried. Like I feel the same way. I'm like, I don't even think last year I would have thought I was going to start a blog.
100%.
And now maybe
Yeah.
it's fitness, you know?
Yes. Yeah. I always toy with that idea, which goes back to like not being able to force people, who aren't ready, because I think for me, I call myself lucky because I think about that all the time. I'm like, wow, for me, it happened like I went to bed one night and I woke up the next day and I had like during that night, like this mystical kind of experience with a meditation I was doing. And I woke up that next day and that's what kind of I call my spiritual awakening, like coming out of the closet. Like I know the exact date, the exact night I went to bed, the exact morning I woke up and I was like, oh, it's on. Like my life has changed from here in a really big way, a really profound way. And I don't know what it means, but something happened to me last night. So I don't think a lot of people get such a drastic like timestamp that way, which makes it hard on the journey because it's so gradual and it's so, just you can't see the progress sometimes, which goes back to that point about giving yourself credit. But
Yeah.
I just wonder about that as a big question that I don't know what the answer is to either. But for me, it happened organically. And that's my message. Like, let it happen organically. Don't force it. And you're learning even when you don't think you're learning. If you're even watching this video or reading this blog or whatever, it means you're already on the path. Maybe you're not having mystical experiences. Maybe you don't know who you are. Maybe you're in the darkest phase, whatever. But the point is, if you're watching this, listening to this, looking up content like this, like you're on your journey. So know that you're doing the thing and you don't have to do anything. You just literally take it day by day and you focus on being present, and that's what you can control. You can control your attitude and that's it. And your perspective. That's it.
That's true. That's absolutely true. And I think being present, and also along with being present, being open to things, because I think we both come from similar, I think, religious background, and now we've become more spiritual and been open to that. And that happened for me in 2016 when I went to my first medium, which I didn't know anything about it before, but someone at work was like, yeah, go check it out. And since then I see signs. I see things that I think are meant for me. I see a reference to my birth date. I see my name sometimes on a street sign. And I think it's all about, it's being open so that you can feel more connected to the universe, the world, or God, or however you want to put it. It's that like being receptive and open is very important too. And you can only really do that if you are choosing to be in the present moment and not like swarming with thoughts about the past or the future. Like if you're in the present, you see and experience more, and you're connected more to the world.
Absolutely.
So that's something I've learned. And yes, it wasn't as big of a deal as maybe other people have gone through. But again, we're all different. We all have different ways of experience it. Maybe some of us needed something more profound because to have that implanted in our mind to help us along the way. So
yeah. And someone might even say, to that, like, okay, yeah, I'm open, but how do I be open? Or I don't even know how to start to be open, right? That's a good question. And it's like, just the intention to be open is good enough. Or even starting with a simple affirmation, like the power of affirmations is underrated. So even just saying something every morning, like I am open, three words, I am open, every day for a week, you'll see, right? Or even, you have the power to, it's like a universal law, ask and you receive, right? So sometimes I'll even do this to this day. If I feel like I'm, like I don't know what's going on, I'll literally say, please show me, the number 222. If I meant to do X, right? Or please show me whatever. So the point I'm making is you can ask for that guidance. As long as you're open, you can start asking and seeing what it's like to talk to yourself, or to see what it's like to just write something down and check back on it like, a month later. So there's different ways to play and, you'll start getting it. The point is when you just even say an affirmation as simple as I am open, I guarantee you will notice a shift. If you do that every day for a solid week, you will start noticing some changes.
Absolutely. And I've definitely wanted to write manifestations down, or just write being grateful. Like sometimes I'm grateful for something that actually already happened, but then sometimes I'm grateful for the anticipation of something that's going to happen.
For sure.
And usually that does come together. I mean, it never happens overnight. It's not like bam, and then the next day you're like, oh, a millionaire. It's nothing like that, but it's like you said, it's the process of just being more open, like making a decision each day, a small decision to say an affirmation, to write something down. Those little baby steps go a long way.
Yeah. And it's important, I think, too, with like the whole manifestation and law of attraction and stuff like that. Gratitude is absolutely important, and visualization is absolutely important, and saying I am a millionaire is absolutely important, right? But it needs to be met with action, inspired action. So sometimes I feel like another kind of trap is thinking you have to learn everything and do everything right away. But with consistency and inspired action, if you just did one small thing that was closer to your dream. So if your dream is to own a house, and then one small action you could take every day is maybe you're going on, MLS and looking at houses. You might not have the money now, but that's an inspired action that you're putting that energy out there. Or you're talking to a friend who's a real estate agent, just asking them questions. Or you're decorating your own home so that it feels nice and you're getting excited about how your future home could look, and you're reorganizing things to whatever. So just taking an inspired action every day instead of trying to do everything at once, because that means in 1 year you've done 365 inspired actions to match your visualization, to match that affirmation, to match the words. And then those two things combined is what's really creating change. The trap is just thinking you can say you want something, but not really act, or, do all the acting, but not have the underlying belief that it can happen. So both of those spectrums aren't going to produce results. It's like this perfect blend of the belief, the words, and the inspired action. Yeah.
That's true. It's absolutely true. Do you, have you ever done vision boards before?
100%. I have so many. And yes, yes, I have. And it's like one of the most fun things is to look back on it and be like, whoa. Sometimes I have actually had the same exact picture I put on my vision board, and I've actually had the same exact location picture happen. Like, for example, like I had put this mountain with this like water, and it was just like in my mind, it represented going away, traveling, whatever. And I hadn't realized it till I did my look back, but I had this picture from California and overlooking this mountain. And when I put the pictures side to side, it was exactly the same exact picture that I actually had a real picture of, and my vision board picture of, like the same thing. I don't necessarily know in real life if it's the same place, but if I showed you the pictures of my real life picture and my vision board, your mind would be blown. Like, and I've had so many examples of that. So it's like, it's different when you hear other people tell you their success stories. And it's one of those things that once you start doing it, you will see for yourself. And the first time it happens to you, you have to experience that excitement and that like mind blowing for yourself, to really appreciate kind of what I'm saying. But yes, it works.
It definitely does. I did mine in January 2020. This was like a month or 2 months before the pandemic happened. Mm-hmm. And I don't believe that vision boards just apply to that year alone, because I've seen things that I've looked at. I'm like, yeah, that's this year. And the one phrase that was on there that is totally relevant is I clipped out of a magazine, Mary making music. And that's what I've been doing. And so I've been doing a lot of music related stuff in my blog and just singing more and connected back to what I really love. And 1,000, like that's what I always think of is like that. I found that and slapped that right on.
Yeah. And it's important to let it go like that. You got to let it go too. That's part of also manifestation, to your point. Like once you make the vision board, not purposely intentionally trying to book that, like in my example, book the vacation to the place that has that picture, right? Like that's not the intention of the vision board. It's like, once you get everything down, you let it go, you put it somewhere where you can see it every day. So it's marinating in your subconscious, and then you let it go and forget about it. Do those inspired actions, do the daily consistency, power of affirmations, etc. But it's that look back. If you truly let it go, it's that look back where you start to realize you did it without even having to like try or force it again.
You got the universe kind of and things fall into place.
Yeah, it's again a cliche where you don't need to know the how, you need to know your why. That's really the basis of manifestation. You don't need to know how, you just need to believe in your why and take those inspired actions. Yeah,
absolutely, 100%. I know that you've narrated a few books. One of them is called 365 Days to Self-Prosperity. And then the other one is about awakening.
Yeah.
How did you get involved, and how has the content of those audiobooks impacted you? Because I know you were just narrating it. I don't think you you didn't write them or co-write, correct? Or you're just narrating them for someone else?
Yep, just narrating. So funny story, again, just thinking about how the universe works when you, you know, want things to happen. I really feel like during the earlier stages of my awakening journey, like, and I still don't know the exact answer how, but I know that my voice is going to be very important. And I mean voice, whether that's literally, like, for example, in the audiobooks and making videos or podcasts, but I also just mean my voice in terms of like thought leadership and my opinions and my own experiences. I know this is going to be really important in my life journey here. And again, I don't know how, but I know that I've been following the nudges, like I've said, and it's led me on the path to confirm that. So one day I saw an event, or someone came up to me with an event. I don't remember, but this event landed in my hand, and it was this voice coaching program. And I'd never done it before. And I love new experiences. I love to be a human. I will try anything once, whether it's jumping out of a plane, eating different food, these weird, experiences that I talk to you about. Like, I love living life and trying new things and doing what people think is crazy. I'm here for it. That excites me the most. So this opportunity came and I was like, voice coaching, what's this? Had no idea what it was. I was like, okay, it's on this Tuesday night. It's a couple hours. Dragged my boyfriend. I was like, we're going to go have fun. Like, let's make this a date night. We're just going to go check this out, see what this guy has to say. So it was in this man's studio, and this man ended up being like this famous voice coach who's helped all of these famous people, has written all these books, created this master program. Like, this was a big time, big wig kind of guy. And we got to create this, like, go into a studio, and he taught us like how to do certain inflections and like talk about the importance of voice work, how it could be a lucrative career, all the stuff. We got to do like our own commercials, and he strung it together and made these like audio pilot reels that we could take with us. So it was just this fun, harmless little kind of session that we went to. And then lo and behold, the practice that I learned there was actually building the skills to actually go ahead and manifest this opportunity through Audible to come through for those two books. So in my opinion, those two things are linked. And that was just the precursor that came to me to even bring it into my awareness that something like narrating an audiobook is possible. Like, I would have never have even thought to do that on my own before I knew that voice coaching and audible narration and commercial educational programs was a way to make passive income. Like, never even knew that was an option until this kind of event landed in my lap, right?
Those passive income things. It's just not about like making it happen, but
yes, exactly. It's a little bit of all things, because we're living in a world where you need money, right? Like, there's a spiritual component where it's energy, and there's a realistic component, which I think is important for people on a journey to recognize. It's that balance, right? We can't just be frivolous, like, money doesn't exist, or I can just, not do anything. We're in a 3D physical reality. There's a way things work, but that's a whole different conversation. But yes, passive income is, has been a goal of mine. So that was one way that I feel like the universe set me up to really step into something like the Audible. And I specifically chose, one of those books chose me, the 365 Days of Affirmation. That is the quantum healing hypnosis practitioner that I mentioned earlier. That's her book where she wrote those affirmations personally, and she asked me to personally be the voice on that specifically. So that's through someone I know. But again, it's like the universal setup. Had I not met her through this serendipitous way, I would not have that opportunity to then, I didn't know she was an author that way either. So these things come together when you're meant to do them.
Yeah.
And then I just auditioned for the awakening one because I do want to keep it in the realm of spirituality, of healing, of different practices. And you audition through the Audible platform, and that person will either accept your audition or not. And there are different ways to do that. So they accepted my audition, and they let me do it. And that book is all about just different practices, contemplative practices of how to sit with yourself, how to listen to your body. So there are meditations in that. She speaks a lot about the contemplative practice of labyrinth walking, which I had never heard about. So I got to learn so much just by reading this book. I learned so much. And then lo and behold, when I was finished the book, I stumbled upon a labyrinth in my local town. So then I realized that there was this location for this exact labyrinth that I've never tried before, right in my town. So I got to use that and actually put the book into practice in my own personal practice. So you just see this kind of like thread. It might not be directly created, but as you go through your journey, you'll start seeing this thread that's tying all of these experiences together.
Yeah, no experience is ever a waste, because it's always going to contribute to your overall experience and your learning and your growth and transformation. So that's what I've learned too. There's no mistakes, there's no regrets. Like, you just keep plugging away, keep doing what you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I figure when you're reading those out so much, it kind of gets in you a little too. Like, I mean, obviously you're reading the books too, but like when you're actually speaking it out, I feel like it's like subconsciously getting in you.
Yes. Well, that's why I did those, because I think it's important. Like when we talk about failure too, it's like some of these things you just say yes to, right? That's the lesson with the universe too. You just say yes. Did I know how to do this when I said yes? Absolutely not. If I had to do it again right now, I'd still be like, I made it up, right? I failed. I got rejected several times. I had to go to an actual studio. I needed to research how to do things that I never did before, but I said yes and it worked out. So like, that's one of the biggest lessons, is like that failure conversation we talked about, or like the learning process. And then more so, it's not even about doing the thing. It's still a bigger component in your life purpose for what you'll need to know, what you are, taking in subconsciously, like the lessons that you're learning. And again, that overall picture for me is getting comfortable using my voice, getting comfortable being on a platform. Is it perfect? No. Can I hear a million mistakes in the audible? Yes. Would I be embarrassed if someone actually listened to it? Yeah. But you know what? I did it and I'm proud of it. And it's getting my voice out there, and it's getting me closer to the purpose that I know I'm supposed to be filling, because I can't take that 1 million step on my voice journey and my being known journey for my life purpose without taking that first step, So it's this gradual evolution too. I don't know if that made sense, but it's really just like, go for the thing. Like, as these opportunities present themselves, it's important to recognize them too, right? So if you're practicing that affirmation, I am open, but you're not present where you're missing the opportunities and you're scared to say yes, that's not going to work out either, right? So if you're practicing I'm open, the other side of that is recognizing and being present enough to be like, that is an opportunity. I'm going to say yes. I'm scared as hell. I'm going to say yes anyway. And again, you don't need to know how. All of a sudden, you'll know that place that exists in your town. That person will come to you, can help you do the thing. You can research it on you. All of a sudden on your YouTube feed, you see a video for exactly what you need to learn to do before you do that thing. Like, it will find you after you say yes.
Absolutely. And it's just like, it's so true, because I can give an example of the singing I've been doing for Christmas recently. So the first Christmas song I put out there, I realized after the fact, when I listened through it again, that it was like a little, like slightly pitchy, and maybe people wouldn't really tell that much, but I knew. And so I was a little bit embarrassed, but I was like, you know what? I still had a lot of heart in it. I was still creative about it. It's still there. Just let it exist and do its thing. I still did it. And like, I can look back next year and be like, look what I created around the holidays. I did something that meant a lot to me, because Christmas means a lot to me. And this is the first time I really got to express and share it with others. So it's like, you have to think about it a holistic way, rather than like, I made a little bit of a flub. So I did try to make my next recording a little bit better. I scratched it on, I re-recorded.
Here's the best advice I've ever got from a friend. She said, 1% better every day, to your point. And I always joke, when I made my first YouTube video, literally, this is how I spoke for an entire 40 minutes. This is what my first YouTube video looks like. I could probably find it too. And I'm like, hi, I'm Abby. This is like what I'm about. This is who I am, right? And then after I recorded it, because I didn't know how to record, I didn't know how to edit, I didn't know how to do any of that, I still posted it. It's still up. I'm sure I could still find it if you wanted to see it. Like, my point is, if I just did 1% better every single day since I got that advice, guess what? Do you think I'd do that same video today if I created a video? Absolutely not, right? So it's like that gradual progression, and not having to do everything at once, and letting go of ideals and perfectionism. And some of that is the inner work. Like, all of this requires inner work to ask yourself, why do I care so much that there is a pitchiness, instead of giving myself the validation I need to say good job, right? That's a journaling question. That's introspective work. That's going to get you to not, let go of like your own expectations of yourself, which means you don't care what anyone else says about it. But now you have to, you know what I mean? So it's like this, it's the introspective work.
That's the thing. I did this. I chose to create this. I did this without knowing exactly how it was going to be received, how it was going to go, or just because I wanted to do it. And it's there. And that's important. It's important to allow ourselves to go through that process of discovery and figuring it out, and going through the process and being gracious with ourselves and patient with ourselves.
Absolutely.
You can laugh about it. Hey, I mean, like, I laugh
at that YouTube video. Like, just like this the whole time.
We wouldn't have a good story to tell.
Exactly. Exactly.
So,
Exactly. I always visualize anytime I go through a hard time. That's one of my own tools I've made up, is I always envision myself on like this world stage talking about this exact time that I'm in, to be like, and then there was this time where, I got into this really bad car accident and almost lost my life. And during the time it was traumatic and I lost all these things, and this is what happened. And I had to go to the chiropractor for friggin', 5 months, 3 days a week. But then, I visualize myself telling that story as my future self is like, but this is how it's helped me. And that helps me reframe it to try to pick out those things that I'm grateful for in that situation, but in this ideal future state that's going to kind of pull me out of like that negative situation. So that's one of the things I've like do for myself every time I find myself in kind of conundrum. Like, okay, how can I visualize this in the future state of when I've gotten through it? Because another favorite quote I have is, we've all survived 100% of the negative things we've been through, right? We're here today. Yeah. So that means we have 100% success rate. So it matters just that grace, like you said, to yourself, and learning the ways that, and the tools, like I said, that are going to help you reframe some of these beliefs and thought patterns, so that you can start to play with it and have fun with it, even in the dark times.
Yeah, absolutely. And it always, and again, like music always lifts me up. So regardless if it's a little pitchy one day or not, it's still giving me the good juju. So
yeah, exactly. And it doesn't mean you're going to like be healed, right? Like, I think another misconception is like, you do the practice and then all of a sudden you went from like being really angry to really joyous just because you sang, right? No. Yeah. But if you could go from really angry to, disappointment, right? And that's a step up on an emotional scale. Like, people just think it automatically goes from like left to all the way to right. And it's like, there's a process. So if singing a song is going to bring you from anger to disappointment to neutrality to, okay, that was kind of fun, to I'm having a blast, to I'm so joyful. Like, that's the progression that you want to focus on, not like then beating yourself up like, wait a minute, I did the thing that I love and I'm still angry. It's just like another trap that we can fall into on the spirituality journey.
So true. I was going to ask, are we going to see you on the next TED Talk for 2022? Is that what is that kind of like, will you visualize something along that line of like speaking to a,
that would be life goals. I don't know about 2022 because I'm not in charge of time, as I've said. Just need to know the why. I don't know the how or when, but that would be that would be a dream for sure. That would be something I would 100% say yes to. Then maybe poop my pants in fear, but then I would I would make it to excitement. Fear and excitement come from the same part of my brain. I'm learning a lot about fear this year.
Like, we do have a lot of fear that we go through before we're doing something really great like that. Like, we just feel anxious and you feel it in your gut. But then I think that happens because you're about to do something amazing, not because like, oh, this is so scary, but like, I'm about to step into something amazing. And that's why my body is reacting this way.
Yeah. And when you get emotional, it means you care, right? Think about a relationship. You wouldn't argue with your partner if you didn't love that person. The fact that you're feeling those emotions is based on love of some form. So absolutely.
Yeah, that's totally true. All right. Well, I have a few more questions for you, but I wanted to talk about your New Age Coach YouTube, because you have over 800 subscribers, which is amazing. And tell everyone your slogan, because I love your slogan. I don't want to say it for you.
It's lighting the way for those on their way to the light.
And your subscribers are called Soul Vibers, which
they sure are. Yes. And see, that's another synchronicity. I didn't have to figure that out. My name, New Age Coach, and my tagline and calling people soul vibers, that all, I just said yes to making a YouTube channel. And all of a sudden that stuff, as I was making videos and practicing, that stuff organically happened. The New Age Coach, people often assume that I'm a certified coach, if you will, but eventually that will be the goal, but that's not what the name coach means to me. So New Age, of course, meaning things like that are mystical and new age spirituality and, self-healing, all of that, like, obviously plays into what my channel is about. But the New Age part of my name was actually that night that I call my spiritual awakening, coming out of the closet. It was actually close to my birthday when I was becoming a new age. I was going from 33 to 34. So as I was stepping into this literal new age, I was like, whoa, I am a new age. I'm a new person. I know I'm on this new path. So that's really what the new age part stands for. But it's kind of perfect just because it plays into kind of the concepts that I work with and talk about. And then the coach, obviously, like I said, people think that's because of a certification or because I'm coaching. And yes, I hope to mentor and inspire people and do the things, but it was actually what I call a sign from the universe. It was one of the first YouTube videos I made where, I was thinking about making a YouTube channel for months and months, and I couldn't get myself to do it. I was so fearful. I was like, people are going to judge me. I don't know what I'm talking about, yada, yada, yada. And then one day I had kind of this mystical experience when I was, with this crystal. It's a whole story, but to bring it down, there was a crystal involved. The crystal shattered. I was on the highway. And at that time I was getting a lot of messages like in license plates and cars. And then I was looking at a car to my right and the license plate said bus. And then after I looked at the license plate that said bus, I looked up to my left and there was this magical mystical bus that looked like it was glowing to me, and the brand of the bus was called New Age Coach because it was a coach. And intuitively I felt the nudge, like that's the name of my channel, just do it. So my first YouTube video was called The Universe Told Me to Create This Channel. And the coach part, as I thought about it later on, again symbolic, because coaches are buses that are equipped for longer journeys, right? And this journey of self-development is a ride. It's going to get bumpy. There are going to be detours. It's not just, a one-stop destination. Like this is a long ride. So you better strap in, get comfortable for this long journey. Yeah. So there's different, symbolism and meaning behind that name. And the same thing with Soul Vibers. I was just talking on a video one day and I was like, I want people here in this community who vibe with my soul. And then it was like Soul Vibers. Like I want Soul Vibers. So like that's the part of
that before, and I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. So you don't have to, again, that's a perfect illustration of, I didn't know how, I didn't know when, but I knew I wanted to start a YouTube channel and I didn't know what I was going to name it or anything. But the moment I said, okay, I'm going to do this, it like kind of just made itself. I didn't have to like think about all of that the way I normally would think about trying to force it, like coming up with the perfect name and having the perfect video and learning. I didn't even know how to edit. So I didn't even know how to create the YouTube channel. So I was like, great, how do I do this? Well, I'm going to say yes. And I feel like I'm getting a nudge to do it. So I better hop on YouTube and learn how to create a YouTube channel.
That's amazing to have so many meanings to the new age, like kind of what you hope symbolically it is, but literally you are new age and then you see new age coaches.
Yeah. And you can't make stories up sometimes. Like I honestly don't think I could have come up with a better name had I tried. Like I really truly feel like that name and my tagline and the whole thing came to me. It's not like anything that I had to try for it. It came to me.
That's amazing. I was, just as a brief story, when I was doing my Music Mondays and decided to do Carpenters, which it will be coming to a nice pleasant close at the end of this year because I will switch to other songs. But when I was researching, I ended up on their website and I found out about this live thing about this new book coming out. And I got my question answered a few days later on live. And that continued my inspiration and passion for just continuing on with some songs and just keep it going. But like, I was just doing some research and then I found something out. I got my question answered live by V. Richard Carpenter. Like, oh my God. I was like, it's totally, you can't explain that. You just go and do what you love and then things just fall into place.
Yeah.
And it happens right away, but you just have to show up and do what you like to do. And it's amazing.
Yeah. I know. It's like the best answer and the worst answer because it's like nothing like, people who are like type A want just like the step-by-step like guide to like enlightenment. And it's like, no, there is no such thing. It's like, you will know. It's like Yoda's answer, like you will know.
I'm finding myself not wanting all the step-by-step to everything either. I'm finding myself wanting to discover it more organically or to just express your experience and just say, hey, just be open to it. Just simple messages that can come out of it without having to be like, well, first you got to do this. First you got to sit down and meditate. Next you got to.
And sometimes it doesn't have to be so woo-woo and spiritual too. Like I find one of my most cathartic ways that I learn about myself, if I'm feeling so many things, I find just talking to a friend, right? Calling a friend up and like, hey, I just need you to listen for a second. I'm just going to talk about how I'm feeling. And the more I just actually have a conversation, I hear the words that are coming out of my mouth. I'll notice I said can't 17 times in 3 sentences. I'll notice just like I said, certain words that will stick out to me where I'm like, wow. So the more I'm just kind of talking organically or in these friendships or creating a support system, like that's one way I self-heal is just by talking. And it sometimes doesn't even have to be with a friend. I literally will have full-blown conversations with me in the shower, when I'm walking, when I'm in my car. I just talk and I'm just trying to catch like the theme of what I'm saying or what the root of what I'm actually saying is. Yeah.
It's really important. I think we're always afraid that it's weird that we're talking to ourselves. Like, it's ourselves. It's me.
No, it was weird. I was walking in my house the other day and I was in a full-blown conversation with myself and I didn't know this guy was behind me. And then I was going into my door and then I looked and I was like, oh, hi. And he's like, hi. He was so confused. I'm like, you just heard my whole conversation, didn't you? He's like, yeah, who were you talking to? I'm like, it's weird. It was myself, kind of you now that you're involved, but it was just me. He was like, are you okay? I'm like, I'm good. I'm good. I got my answer. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, it could have looked like you had a Bluetooth.
Yeah.
You can kind of cover that up these days. Like, oh yeah, I was talking to friends.
I don't even care. I'm like, yeah, no, I owned it. I was talking to myself.
I know. No, you should really just own it. But like, it's funny because like most people don't think that's strange these days because we see Bluetooth in there all the time too.
Yeah.
So. But you do you.
Yeah.
Just to leave our actually before I go there, is there any new content on New Age Coach that we can expect from you in 2022? Any new ideas you're coming up with? I know you have different types of content you're putting on there.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that today and for the last couple of months. So the first part I'll say is one about some of the content I put there, because some of the stuff will be personal videos. Some of it will be like lessons, life lessons, things that I'm going through, introducing different modalities like I've talked about. And some of them are what I call like fluffy videos, like lifestyle vlog, where it'll just be me to music, maybe going to a farm or doing some type of experience. And off the cuff, you might get confused just because it feels like it's all over the map. But I feel it's important to include some of those experiences because one, if you're not aware of different events or ways to live or things that will bring you joy, like one is bringing kind of different ideas to consider. You don't know what exists out there until you know it exists. So, or if it's something as simple as, trying to create that community and friendship. If you're feeling lonely, just to know that like I'm a place that you can come and like feel like you're on that experience with me, then like creating that camaraderie with you. Or if you're just laughing at me as I'm rolling in the grass, like having, the time and you get a smile out of it, like that's also part of your self-healing journey. So it is connected in terms of why sometimes I post a lot of like fluff, I call it like that, to showing you my experience, what I'm up to, what I'm doing. Yeah. But with that said, moving forward, I'm really trying to be more cognizant with what I'm going to be posting. I've taken a little bit break and it's a little bit more sporadic because 2021 on my spiritual journey feels like it's been the first 2 years of my awakening at like 1 million components, like to the millionth power. I've had a lot of events happen this year. I've had a lot of internal conflict. I've had a lot of things to work through. So this year has kind of flipped me upside down on my head in terms of unpacking a lot of the things that have happened on my own journey. So I'm trying to go through an integration process. And I think that's an important message for anyone on a spiritual journey where, when you're showing up on platforms like that, it's all great and dandy to share that, but it's more important for you to be able to integrate the experience, understand what the lesson was, and to be able to share from like a place of groundedness too, right? We don't want to make anyone else feel ungrounded or more shaky or more confused. And I feel like it's important for me to like take the space a little bit to reflect, see what I've learned. And then that's how I kind of transmute that into a message that I want to share. So I'm trying to redo kind of the strategy and types of videos that I'll start putting out there, but I'm also being really careful with myself and not putting any expectations on that. And knowing that when I'm ready to step back into that full time with the best version of myself at this time and the right intent at this time, then, that's when the magic will happen. But I still feel a little bit like, my wings are new all over again. And I'm still trying to figure out like what to do with these new wings. Yeah.
Aren't we all, right?
Yeah.
This feels right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I hear you with this year too. I feel like I've had to just come to terms with so many aspects of myself and really like address things head on, or at least do the best I can to kind of break it down. Still addressing things, but really being more self-aware, which is so important. But my last and final question something that we can leave with our listeners is what is one message or one wisdom you would share with someone who is feeling stuck and not connected to joy yet? Like, I know we kind of did go through some other things, but like, I guess if you had one message or one thing to kind of pick someone up from that, what would you say? You can think about it for a few. I know it's
Yeah, no, I think intent is really, again, underrated. I think, like we said, it's important to want to connect with joy. And at face value, it's like, well, obviously, because I'm feeling that way. But that goes back to the spiritual journey of having to dig deep and do some introspection, right? Because you might be having some limiting beliefs about, do I deserve to be happy, right? Am I worth being happy? Do I forgive myself for any of the things that are stopping me from being happy? Do I honestly, from the bottom of my soul, think that I could be that millionaire, right? Because if your answer is no to any of those questions, you can want joy all you want, but you're never going to be matching the experience of joy because you've got some things to work out to be able to accept joy, right? So you have to be open to joy and have the intent to want joy, but you also have to be open to kind of asking yourself some important questions and being open to receiving whatever answers you give yourself to, and being honest, like with yourself, with the answers, because that's the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Wow. I feel uplifted for my day. I feel like
thank you. Likewise.
Joy. Carrying me up for probably the rest of the week.
Yay! Well, that makes me
the holiday season, right?
See, it's good energy. It goes back and forth. You're joyful, I'm joyful. See, it win-win.
Yeah, that's what I'm really trying to do. I mean, I think I'm really trying to kind of hone in on what I really want to do in the new year. I haven't quite defined all of that yet, but the important thing is just the thing that I did achieve this year is just being able to connect with others and talk about joy and talk about all these topics. And support each other too, and be able to say, hey, check her thing out, check this out. I think that's important for us to always support,
absolutely
support your people, because that loneliness is so prevalent too. We've experienced it too over the last year and a half, and I've even talked about that in some of my blogs. But let's feel less lonely. Let's support each other. Let's connect with each other, and let's talk about the things that matter the most, and find a way together. So that's.
Drop mic, end scene. You said it. Everything she just said, check.
All the things that Abby said.
Awesome. This has been awesome. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you and everyone here.
It's been great. Awesome. Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of your week and the rest of this month. And Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays.
Yes, you too.
Enjoy it. Enjoy every moment.
Life lesson. Enjoy every moment.
Enjoy every moment. We still got a few weeks left of this year. Let's make it the best we can. So we'll take care, Abby, and I'm sure we'll.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you.